Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka the guy who's watched the MCU 14,605 times. It was a long lockdown year, don't judge me. Now because of this, I have noticed some pretty cool Easter eggs in Doctor Strange that not only tie back to Wandavision, but also the rest of the MCU and what we've seen so far of Loki. Throughout this video, we're going to be breaking down some of the best Easter eggs in the movie, as well as some hidden details that wouldn't pay off until years down the line. Now magic is becoming a big part of the MCU, and we're slowly learning more and more about it. However, what you may not have noticed is that there are colours associated with each type that we see the sorcerers using throughout the Marvel Universe. Typically, magic is shown to be orange, however in the case of chaos magic, it shines as bright red. Juxtaposing this, which I sound pretty pretentious saying, dark magic typically presents as purple. Throughout Wandavision, we watch as this colour manifests whenever Agatha casts a spell, and it becomes clear that this is the colour that's always going to be associated with darkness. When we meet Dormammu at the end of Doctor Strange, we can also see that he basks in flashes of it too. Therefore, I think purple magic will also come with dark wizardry, and as always, it's all connected. Now when Agatha is held in place at her trial in Salem, we can see that the witches cast blue magic on her.
Blue magic!
And because of this, the colours that represent certain magics could be related to the Infinity Stones. Red magic may represent the Reality Stone, as it's always in a state of flux, purple for power, and blue for the Space Stone, as people can be held in place with it. When Loki went to stab Thanos in Infinity War, you could catch the Mad Titan holding back the blade with the Space Stone, which showed as being blue, so it could all be linked, or it could be a reach, and here's why. In episode 2 of Loki, we come face to face with Lady Loki, and she uses green magic to possess people. This colour is typically associated with the Time Stone, and maybe it means she's having the time of her life possessing people, or maybe we should just jump onto something else before we ruin the entire video. Now saying that though, the film does end with Strange creating a time loop with the Time Stones, which spawn forth green magic, so maybe the possession is just linking in with the colour of Loki, which typically tends to be green. Interestingly, Mysterio had green magic too, and though he was probably unaware of the spells cast by Loki, I like that this colour is always associated with tricking or fooling someone. But you can't fool me, and I know that Mephisto is behind it all. You're not gonna fool me. Now the Time Stone is a very important MacGuffin in Doctor Strange, and it allows him to not only manipulate time, but also see into the future. In Infinity War, we learn that he views 14,605 outcomes of the battle with Thanos, and this is actually a nod to the Fantastic Four issue 605, in which the team built a machine that allowed them to see into the future. Mordo warns Strange that messing with time can create paradoxes, time loops, and alternate realities, and one thing that has become apparent in Loki is that if you mess with things beyond one timeline, then the TVA will always come and stop you. So how exactly was Strange able to see 14 million different outcomes if there should only be one? Well, potentially Strange did see several branching pathways, but as the Avengers never physically went down these paths, no Nexus events were created, so the TVA didn't have to intervene. Strange clearly says there is only one outcome in which they win, and we know from episode 1 of Loki that this was always meant to happen, so he was in fact seeing the one sacred timeline. The way Strange is sitting also looks like there's a time stream across the middle of him, and this is a bit similar to when the Timekeepers were holding up the sacred timeline in the animated video. Now the movie starts off with Caecilius stealing a book from the Ancient Ones collection. These books are glowing almost as if they're alive, and when we see the Darkhold in Agatha's basement, it too is bursting with light beneath the cover. Wanda ends up taking this, and in the post-credit scene of episode 9, we can see that she's reading it whilst also walking around her little tranquil getaway. This shows that she's superior to Strange in strength, as when he was reading books on the astral plane, he had to do it as he slept because he didn't have the energy to do two things at the same time. Men and their multitasking in the multiverse, eh? Am I right, ladies? Now later on, when Strange visits the library, we can see that a book is missing from the Ancient Ones collection, and this could actually be where the Darkhold was. Every time I've brought this up, I've had someone go, well actually, Caecilius took that, but in the opening of the movie, yeah, all he does is rip out of the pages that he needs, and he dumps the book on the floor, you idiot. Now Strange steals this book from the library, and he uses the Time Stone to bring the pages back. Thus, this missing book being out in the world does hint towards the Darkhold's appearance in Wandavision. Caecilius and co head off, and they're chased by the Ancient One. We later learn that she pulls from the dark dimension and a symbol appears on her forehead in order to show this. In the opening of the movie, the Ancient One wears a hood so that no one can see this as being cast, and this is why Caecilius calls her a hypocrite. Also, is it just me, or is something always up with Mads Mikkelsen's eyes in every movie that he's in? Should get those checked out, you moron. Now, the first look at... I'm sorry for calling you that, you're a nice guy. Now, the first look at Strange that we get is a close-up of his hands, and this brings attention to how much he values them. Strange is very egotistical because of what he can do with them, and thus focusing on them here makes it even more devastating when they're destroyed. No thumbs downing my videos for you, hahaha. Now, if you're enjoying the video, then I'd massively appreciate the thumbs up, and if you're a Marvel maniac like me, then don't forget to subscribe as we do videos like this each and every day. Anyway, when Strange is pulled into the multiverse, we can see that hands haunt him in every part of the environment, and there's even some trippy visuals of hands growing out of hands. Strange's hands being damaged are a consistent thing throughout the MCU, and even in Endgame when he holds up one finger to Tony, we can see it shaking slightly due to the nerve damage that he received. Now, whilst they are typically shown to evoke negative emotions, there is some symbolic hope that shines through later on in the movie. Just before the Ancient One dies, she holds Strange's hand, and this shows that he is somewhat accepting of the arc he's been on. From here we cut to him washing his hands once more, mirroring the first scene, and again, it's like poetry, they rhyme. Now, the time stone is of course a very important object in the movie, and this focus on time is actually foreshadowed at several points. When Strange is carrying out an operation, he gets someone to cover their watch, and when he visits his home, he opens a drawer with several spinning watches inside. These spin much like how the Eye of Agamotto spins open, and we can see that there's a green light on all of them, which is of course a nod to the Infinity Stone. Strange chooses a watch, and this ends up breaking. However, rather than throwing it away, he keeps it with him at all times. The movie actually ends with him putting on the watch and then looking at it. This sort of reflects how he has himself been broken, but he's still ready to face things and find a purpose. Hilariously, when he first puts on the watch, we can see that the date is February 2nd, which you might also know as Groundhog Day. Because this watch breaks, it gets stuck on that date, and the Groundhog Day movie was about a time loop, which foreshadows the end of this film and how Strange defeats Dormammu. Just before his car crash, Strange is told of several patients that may or may not be a nod to other characters in the MCU. There's a tenuous one of an Air Force colonel with a broken back that may be Rhodey, though it could also be the guy who got his spine twisted in Justin Hammer's demonstration in Iron Man 2. There's also one that many people thought was Captain Marvel, but we know from her origin story that this isn't the case. Interestingly though, there is a 68-year-old woman brought up, but Strange refuses to work on her because she's elderly, thus meaning she's more likely to die in surgery, and this would mess up his perfect record. Strange later operates on the Ancient One, a very elderly woman, and she dies, so this conversation kind of foreshadows him losing his perfect record, but the fact that he was still willing to help someone shows how much he's grown as a character. After the crash, Strange goes to a man who is mystically mended, played by Benjamin Bratt. We catch him playing basketball, and every time I watch this scene, I think back to when he played basketball against Halle Berry in another comic book classic, Catwoman. Leave a comment down below if you want me to break down Catwoman. It's gonna be a best breakdown anyone's ever done, a best breakdown of all time. Now Strange goes to meet the Ancient One, and she gives him a cup of tea. Later in the post-credits scene, Thor goes to the Sanctum Sanctorum, and before he's given a beer, we can see him drinking from the same cup. The Ancient One tells him to open his eye, and shouts Eric the Boss Boss from New Rockstars for pointing out that she touches what is typically thought to be someone's third eye. It might also foreshadow how Strange has to open the Eye of Agamotto in order to win, and that's my contribution to that Easter egg thread. Now Strange goes on a trippy journey that feels like what happens when you have a couple of drinks and look at yourself in the mirror. You'll understand when you're older, kids. And in space, he comes across a butterfly. Symbolically, butterflies show rebirth and transition, which Strange is of course going through at this moment. Strange settles in quickly and is given the Wi-Fi password Shambhala, and this word in Tibet means enlightenment. However, the Doctor Strange graphic novel Into Shambhala also deals with the Ancient One's death, which of course happens later on in the movie. Now it's not too long before he becomes one of the Ancient One's best students, but Caecilius has other plans. At one point, Strange traps one of his zealots in what I think is the Sahara Desert, And later when Kaecilius goes to Hong Kong, we can see he came from the desert because he had to go and get his crew. He chases Strange and Mordo through the city, and we get a cameo by Stan Lee. Now you might not have noticed, but he's actually reading The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley. This is a pretty trippy book that goes in depth on psychedelic drugs, and it actually helped to inspire a lot of things in the Doctor Strange comics. The Ancient One arrives to help out, and we can see that she makes a platform with the Triquetra in the middle of it. This symbol is something that's appeared in the Thor films at several points, and it represents several things in Nordic mythology, including the Father, Son and Holy Spirit, as well as the Knot of Time. In Thor Ragnarok, just before Strange sends Loki and Thor to their father, he also makes one showing that it's connected to them, and as always, it's all connected. Now Kaecilius beats the Ancient One, and on the astral plane she says that she wasn't able to see past her death. In Infinity War, however, Strange was able to see into the timeline where the Avengers lost, and also the one where they won, because in those other potential pathways, he either didn't hand over the Time Stone and let Tony die, or he was brought back by the snap. Thus, because the character never actually died, he was able to see past getting dusted, whereas the Ancient One isn't able to see beyond this. Kaecilius launches his attack, and we discover that the three sanctums are located in Hong Kong, London and New York. Interestingly, these are the first three places that Killmonger targets when launching his attack at the end of Black Panther. Strange ends up flying through the portal to take Dormammu on face to face, and this could be a nod to how Iron Man flew through one at the end of the Avengers in order to take down the Chitauri. Scott Derrickson, the director, actually said far too many movies end with the heroes attempting to close portals, so he wanted to show someone who would fly into danger instead of shutting it off. Dormammu is actually voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch, and this is because the creature existed in a world without any real life, so it mimicked the first thing that it came across. Doctor Strange wins, and he won the hearts of millions, including my grandma, who said he's her favourite Marvel character. Officially. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the film and what's happening in Loki right now. As a thank you for interacting with the video, you'll be entered into a prize drawn the 30th of June, in which we're giving away 3 copies of the Phase 3 MCU box set. All you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on the video. The winners of last month's competition are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers. If you want something else to watch, then we've got a Marvel related video on screen right now, and I tell you, you better go head over there, or else, and you better click the like, otherwise I'll bloody kick off. Anyway, you're still here, yeah, because you can hear me talking, but thanks for watching until the end of the video. I've been Paul, I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.